Hello everyone, this is Alan here, aka Chita, and welcome back to A Beginner's Guide to Programming. Now, if you haven't watched part 1 or 2 of this series, I strongly suggest you to go back and watch them, as I'll be referencing terms that I have already explained in there. Now, if you have watched, let's go ahead and create a new project, start afresh new, and let's get started. On this episode, we're going to tackle built-in functions, which are functions that the programming language already has that are created to make our lives easier. On this episode, we're going to focus in particular on string functions. Now let's go ahead and get started. First thing that we're going to do is to create a variable. Now let's start by declaring a variable. Then, and I notice I have caps lock on, so let me get rid of caps lock. And what I'm going to call it is I'm going to put S for string, and will be as a string, and then I'm going to give it a value. So S will be equal to let's say this is a string. It's good enough. Now let's open some space and go ahead and start with some built-in functions. Now actually, before we even start, what I'm going to do is to write in console.writeLine, and what we're going to write is the string S, and then let's pause the program. Console.readline. Okay, let's go ahead and run the program so we can see this is a string exactly as we wrote. Nothing special about it, it's pretty boring in fact. So let's make things interesting. Let's say we wanted, for whatever reason, we wanted the name to be, the string to be all in capital letters. Now, you could, let's say, type it all over again with caps on, or you could simply use a built-in function, which is Ucase. The U standing for uppercase. To do that, first you need to understand what is a function, or even better, what a function does. A function will normally take a value, or might not take a value, but it normally does, especially built-in functions, and will use this value to give you a different value. So essentially what a function is this value that it gives you. So you could just go ahead and say that a function is a value. It's not really, but we use it as if it was a value. So what we can do is, after we write it the first time, it's going to create some time before we pause the program, we're going to say S will be equal to, and then we're going to use a function. So the function Ucase, as I said, Ucase. Then you're going to open brackets, which is very important. As I said, some functions will take values. Uppercase 100% of the time will take at least one value. Well, one value. And the value that it is the string that it is changing. Now in this case, what I want to change is the actual string S. Now if you're not 100% sure what I just did, let me go ahead and explain, because this is really important. It's the essential of what we're doing. S is a variable, as you should know, because we've created it. Then we populate in the value with whatever the function Ucase outputs. Whatever the function Ucase gives us, this will be the new value for S. And what Ucase is doing is taking the value for S, the old value, and changing this value into everything is uppercase, and then this line saves it into the variable S. So if we went ahead, and I'll just copy and paste this for the sake of efficiency, and write it once more, and then we can run. The first line represents the string before we do changes. The second line is the string after we do the change. Everything went from lowercase to uppercase. But let's say that you change your mind and now you want it back to lowercase. There is also a function that does that. So what we're going to do is, first of all, just to show the difference, I'm going to choose a character at random. In this case, this R. I'm going to put this R as an uppercase R. And then I'm going to do, once again, where we want to save the new value for the function that we're going to use, which will be s, is equal to, and then the new function that we're going to use. Now we want to change from uppercase to lowercase, and the function is called Lcase. And if you can't guess, L stands for lower in lowercase. And once again, the Lcase needs a string to change. That's what it's using. And once again, this string that we're going to use is the variable that we called s. So let's go ahead and close it. And then once again, we're going to write it down to the console. Now let's go ahead and run it. And 3 times. The first time is the string with no changes, with everything in lowercase but the R. Then the second time is everything, no exceptions, in uppercase. And the third time, everything, no exceptions, is on lowercase. Now, if you were to use s in here, s would be, this is a string with only the R in uppercase. Now, if you were to use s at any point in here, then everything would be in uppercase. So it doesn't matter that before it was like that. Because we changed the value in here, until we change the value again, s would be this, which is this, everything in uppercase. And the same applies to here. If you were to use there, until you change the value again, s is always that, everything in lowercase. Alright, now that's nice to know, but what if you wanted to handle, for example, names? And typically, names have the first character, the first letter of each name as a capital letter, and everything else a lowercase. Now, the way to do it is I'm going to use a slightly more complex function, which is the strconv, which stands for string converter, or string conversion, I'm not sure which one. So let's go ahead and use it. Once again, functions will always output a value, and a function on its own won't do anything. You need to save this value or use this value somewhere. And what we're going to do is save the value to s once again. So go ahead and s will be equal to, and then the function that we're going to use, which happens to be strconv. Then let's open brackets, and as I said, strconv is a slightly more complex function because it can do a number of different things to the same string. One of them being change it into proper case, which is what we want to do. Now I'll explain to you how to do it, and I'll show you some of the options that you would have, so you can play around and find out more about it for yourself. So let's go ahead and put in the values that we need. Now strconv will first take a string that we will apply the changes to. In our case is s, our variable. Then we need to put a comma. A comma is a keyword or a key character that basically on functions and parameters and many of other times it means this is the next thing to be used. Could be a value, could be another function, could be many different things. That's why I'm not saying a value. So what we want to use is a proper case, which is in here. So I'm using the arrow keys to scroll down, and there is an explanation in here of what strconv.propercase does. It converts, if I get that back, the first letter of every word in the string to uppercase. which is exactly what we want. So let's go ahead and use that. So type in close brackets, and VB will enter that for you because you had it selected. And once again, Ctrl V to paste our console.writeLine and run the program. Now we have how the string initially was, then uppercase and lowercase and proper case, which is the first letter in capital, everything else in lowercase. Even if you had another string or sorry, another character or letter in uppercase that it wasn't the first letter, you'd be put in lowercase because that's what proper case does. This is very useful for names because in this case the user can enter the names, if you ask for their names for example, in any way, no matter how, but you always have it properly, which is the first letter in capital. Now I want to show you one more thing. If we delete this proper case, and this is a way for you to teach yourself some stuff. For example, if you didn't like to use UCase and you want to use string convert, you could use dot uppercase, which will convert everything to uppercase. And you can use this to find out what these different things do. So basically you can learn different functions by yourself by using nothing but VB itself. But for now, let's leave it like that. Now that's all nice and all, but what if we are fine with uppercase and lowercase and everything's already formatted the way we wanted, but want to extract something from a string? Let's say we want to get the first 3 letters, the first 3 characters of a string. There is a way to do it, and what we're going to do is console.writeLine, and what we're going to write is, well, what we're going to write will be the first 3 characters of the string S. And the way to do it is left, because we write from the left to the right, then again open bracket, and once again we need the string that we're going to take the value from, which is S. Then enter comma and enter the length. We want the first 3 characters, so go ahead and type in 3. Now close bracket for the left, and as you can see, left has an open bracket which is sort of different from the other one, and the close bracket is also selected, like this weird selection thing. This makes it easier for you to know which one this close bracket belongs to. And we open a bracket in here, so we need to close it. So let's go ahead and close that one as well. And as you can see, it is selected. Now, if you close more brackets than you open, then this weird selection won't happen. And not only that, this is actually a very bad error. The program won't run like that. So you go ahead and close that, to delete that, sorry. And this will write the first 3 characters from the left of our string S. 1, 2, 3, that's correct, exactly what we wanted. So let's say you want the first 4 characters from the right, so the last 4 characters really of the string, which is ring. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. Console.writeLine, once again open brackets, and then we want the last 4, which is from the right. So let's go ahead and put right, open bracket once again, S, and how many characters we want, which happens to be 4. Now close 1 and close 2 to close the right line. Go ahead and run it, and ring, exactly as we needed. Cool. Now what if this is not what you need? What if you want let's say everything from the first 3, from the third letter, from the third character, everything from the left to the right, regardless of how many characters there are on the string. So you could use write and then calculate how many characters are on S and then go back from there. Or you could use, better yet, also the right line, let's go, mid, because essentially what that would be doing is taking it from the middle. And mid is a function, so open. And we want what the string that we're taking the value from, which is S, comma, the start location, which let's say we want from the 5th or the 6th character, so it'll be from this I over here. And then close that, run is a string, which is exactly what we wanted, from the I on is to the end, which is all nice and all. But what if that's still not good enough? What if you happen to need everything starting from the second character all the way to the second to last character? What would you do? Once again, we will use the function mid. Now there are two ways that you can use mid, and you can see that from this one of two right here. It means that there are two ways, this being the first one, or you can use the arrow to see the second way, which uses length. So starting from the character, whatever you put there, count as many characters as you put in length and stop there. Don't go all the way to the end. What we do is first the string, which is S, then the start integer, which will be 2, because we want the second character, all the way to the second to last. So we will be only excluding the first and the last character. So we're going to use another function. We're going to use a function within a function. And what we will be doing is len, then we open brackets. Now len, you put there's 16 ways to do it, to use len. Now the way that we're going to use is to give it a string, and then we'll calculate the length of it. So you'll calculate how many characters are on the string. Remember that punctuations like dots and commas and spaces will count as one, as a character, because it's characters in general, it's not just letters. So if we're excluding the first character, let's go ahead and put the, before I start explaining that, let's go ahead and put the string in, which is S, and then close bracket. Okay, now this will output, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there's 16 characters in total on this. Now, if we are starting the mid process from the second, it would be the total number of characters that we would be outputting would be 15, because 16 minus 1, 16 being the total minus 1. But we don't want the last one either, so we do minus 2, because it's 1 for the first character and 1 for the last character, so we do that, minus 2. And then we close the bracket for the mid. That selects the open bracket for mid, so that's correct. Then we close the bracket for the right line. That selects the open bracket for the right line, which is also correct. And we run. Est is a string without EG. Exactly what we wanted. Everything but the first and the last characters. Now, that's it for today, guys. So we've learned how to format, as in uppercase and lowercase. We've learned how to extract fractions from strings, and we've learned how to measure how many strings there are using the length function. Now, next episode we're going to handle built-in functions for numbers. But I strongly recommend that between episodes you do some work on your own with built-in functions for strings. And if you're out of ideas, I'll give you one. If you do a program that does, first of all, asks for name. Then write name. I'll put prop for proper case. So write a name properly. Let's just say with the first letter in capital. Then you will, after 2 comes 3, not 2 again. Then you will write how many characters in the name. So you can say something, your name has X characters or something like that. And what I'm going to give as a challenge, and I will explain briefly on the next tutorial how to use it, but this should be good enough for you guys to play around with between episodes and familiarize yourselves with some of the built-in functions for text. So that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the series, if you want to see more, feel free to like and subscribe. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions or anything like that, please do leave a comment. I had a break, I had the holidays, so I wasn't checking my channel for a while, but now I'm back and I'll be back with full strength. So every time that you leave a comment, I will know immediately and I will come to the computer as soon as possible and help you guys with whatever I can. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you next time. Good luck.